Today's daf is daf pay. We're going to go back to Ayin Tes on the base, and we're going to get started. Today we're going to be learning about Todah and Kabbanis that are b'makam Todah, like Tamura, and do they need lechem? Zok Tehelig Mishnah. Vlad Todah. What if the carbon Todah had a Vlad? Utamurasa. Or if someone made a Tamura with the Todah. Hifrish Todah va'avda v'hifrish acheres tachteha. Or if you had a Todah that went missing and you had to be mafresh, a Todah to replace that one, all of these karbanos, eina to'una lechem, they don't require lechem. Shenemar v'hikriv al zevach ha-Todah. Davka ha-Todah, the original Todah, to'una lechem, v'loi vlada, v'loi chalufa, v'loi timurasa, to'unin lechem. So let's look at the Ksav Yad Rashi. V'loi chilufa, zuhi chilufa. Sha'avda, it got lost. The hifrish acheres tachteha, and you were mafresh another one to replace it. The shuv nimpsas, and then you found it, the karva nami besida. So now you have two animals that are going to be a toida. Zok tahelig gemar. Tanu rabbanon. Mahu oimer. It says in the pasuk, it says imal toida yakrivenu. Now we're darshaning yakrivenu in two stages. So ma'omer toida yakriv, which is the first half of the word yakrivenu. Minayin lemafresh toidasai va'avda v'hivrish acheres tachteha v'nimtas harishayna v'areishtein oimdois. Now you have the two toidos, the original and the replacement, standing side by side. Minayin she'eza mehen sheyirtza yakriv v'lach ma'ima. How do you know that you can pick which one is going to be the real toida, and that real toida is going to be accompanied by the 40 lachmei toida? Talmud loymar ha-toida yakriv yochol shetei shnia tuna lechem. You might think that when you're makriv the extra one, it would also require a set of lechem. Talmud loymar yakrivenu dafka, that one echad v'lo shnai. Let's have a look at the Ksav Yad of Rashi. Tanu Rabbanan. Ma'u oimer toida yakriv. Do they have a tzarech l'meimar im al toida yakrivenu? The matzil michtav v'hikriv al zevach ha-toida. V'hashto lo'daik el yakriv l'chudei. We're only being medaik the first half of the word of yakrivenu. The kadaik dehumiyut is a miyut. Loimar dial echad mehen makriv lechem v'loi shtayim. So achar sheriba hakosov. So zok to more about it. Achar sheriba hakosov. Umiyut. What is the ribui and the miyut? Zok the Ksav Yad Rashi. Achar sheriba hakosov la krova. It was marba, both animals la krova. You can pick each one, either one you want. And miyut she'ein oisen lechem. And there's a miyut that you only make lechem for the toida, not for the replacement. Menayin l'rabois vladois v'chalifois utmurois lakrava. So what's the shaila? Menayin l'rabois vladois v'afilu niskaper barishoina havyon hani b'nei akrava. How do you know that even if it was niskaper with the original one, that the vladois would also be b'nei hakrava? Talmud lomer im al toida, which the Ksav Yad teaches riba dechol elu craven. You learn from here that they're all, you're makriv of them all. Im al toida, not only the toida originally, but im al toida, any spin-off from the toida will all be hukrav on the mizbeach. Yochol you to unois lechem. You might think they also require lechem. Talmud lomer v'hikriv al zevach ha toida, like it says in our Mishnah. Toida tuna lechem v'loy vlada v'loy chilufa v'loy timurasa to unin lechem. Gewaltig. Sholach Rab Chanina mishmei Rabbi Yochanan loishanu elo la'achar kapara av lefnei kapara to unin lechem. We have no idea what this statement of Rabbi Yochanan means, and that's what the Gemara is going to struggle with today. Loishanu elo la'achar kapara av lefnei kapara to unin lechem. Zok tehelig Gemara. Haviba Rav Amram. Rav Amram was challenged by understanding what Rabbi Yochanan said. Ahaya, what is Rabbi Yochanan referring to? Ilema achalipe toidas choiva. So the definition of toidas choiva is also a discussion. So let's look at what the Rashba, I keep on calling him the Rashbam. Let's look at what the Ksaviyad of Rashi says. If we're speaking about chalive toidas choiva, what is a toidas choiva? Zogt the Ksaviyad of Rashi. Ilema chalive choivas toida, koid omer alai, the havia alei choiva. What made this toida a chiyuv? It means when he was makabel upon himself to bring a korban toida, he didn't say arei zu, and that's called a nadava, that you're not chayv b'achreisah. Rather, he said b'loshen neder harei alai. So there's a responsibility for him to bring a toida, whether or not this particular animal gets lost. The Rabbi Yochanan amastizin kamahater. So the way Rabbi Amram was thinking was Rabbi Yochanan is referring to the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, the katani v'levlada v'lechalufa tuna lechem. The Mishnah says that the vlad of the tamura, or if you had to swap out the tamura because it went missing, they don't require lechem. Umastizin stama katani, the lekal mashra midi ilafnei kapar mari ilacha kapar. It's not clear in the Mishnah if we're talking about before the one that was brought for the Todah was brought or not. So therefore, if you already designated the one that you wanted to bring for the Todah, excuse me, and you already brought it with its lechem, then the second one you bring doesn't have to be brought with its lechem. But otherwise, you would have to bring it. Now, that's how this Ksaviyad, I'm sorry, this is regular Rashi. It's not Ksaviyad Rashi. I'm in the wrong section. Ksaviyad Rashi is below here. I'm very sorry. I was learning the wrong shtickle. Here he says, Lo shanu the ein tunis lechem ulkamam nefarshla ilema achilufe toidas choiva kagoyin amar harei, which is also what the Rashi looked earlier. Pevish bevi v'kaim alon the chayv v'cheruson the amar alai v'avda v'vish acheres but nimtus harishona v'kamer im koidim shehikrev harishona hikrev hashniya tuna lechem hashniya v'mloi loi. I saw. I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but we'll probably see it soon. There are those who learn that chayva means there are some times where you're mechuyev to bring a todah. Right? There's four times where you're mechuyev to bring a todah. That is hochi yam, chaylish nisrapa, hochi midbaris, and someone who got out of mibeis or surin. So there's actually a big shaila in the Rishonim, is that person mechuyev to bring a todah or not, or if it's just a suggested, option when someone has that. There's actually a shayla in the Rishonim about that. So according to the Shittas who hold that you're mechuyev to bring in those four instances, so it could be that's what it means, and I think someone alludes to it that I saw. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. So if it's going on Chalife Todah, Toidah's Chayva, so then let's think about it. Ilif ne kapara tanina. If it was before the kapara tanina, our Mishnah says beferish that you have to take, you have to be makar the lechem, and ilacha kapara weiter. The Brisa says you don't have to bring the lechem, because let's have a look in the Brisa. So you see the first one, you have to bring the lechem with it, and then the Brisa says, but the other one you don't bring the lechem. It says hatoida. So why do we need Rabbi Yochanan to tell us this if the Mishnah or the Brisa are really told us this? So let's have a look. If it's lefnei kapar tanina, the tuna lechem, and la'ach kapar tanina, the eina tuna. So we know that the one that's the original one, we need the one that you pick to be your real todah is what gets the lechem. Now the Ksaviyad tells us this brisa that we just learned is referring to a toidah's chayva. How do I know? What do you mean Todah soy? Here's Todah. What makes it his Todah? He must have said Aray alai. V'lekatani minayin lemafresh Todah. Lishna chrina. Oh, here's where I saw it. I saw it in the I knew I didn't fabricate it. Toidas choyve kagoyin mefarish b'yam v'yoytze b'shiyara v'choyle shenitzel mecholyoy v'chove sheyotze b'beis hasurim tamrinim b'brachos arba tzrichin l'hoidois t'chsiv b'hu v'yizbechu zivche toida b'sefer tehillim. So that's what it means a chiyuv. It's a chiyuv because of one of those four things, but that's a machloikus rishonim as to whether it's be'etzem a chiyuv. Okay, so we're at a loss. Cannot be speaking about a Todah Schreiva because otherwise I don't need Rabbi Yochanan to tell me that that's mufurish in the brisa. Ella, maybe it's talking about Chalife Todas Nedava. So then, if it's Chalife Todas Nedava, Bein Lefnei Kapara, Bein Lach Kapara, to Unas Lechem, it should for sure require Lechem. You know, I marbe b'Toidosu. No one forced you. If you said Arezu Toida and it went missing, no one forced you to bring another Toida. But the fact that you decided to make the replacement a Toida, or even create a replacement, that's just like you being Mechayiv yourself another carbon Toida. So of course, it's not even a replacement, it's an original. It's an original, if it's Khalife Toida. As it says in Ksavia Drashi, Ella Khalife Toida Stadov, according to Omar Harezu Toida, Ve'ena Chayiv B'Acharusa, Ve'ov the Hifish Acheres, Marbe V'Stoidesu. Love Chalipani. This is not instead of the other one, because by the other one getting lost, there's no obligation for you to bring another one. And of course, a tuna lachem. I feel in this kapper berishayna because it's Moshe the Todah who it's Yisrael shegadla l'Todah v'lav Todah. Okay, zok to Gemara ella avla Todah. Maybe it's referring not to Chalife Todah because that's mamish marbe b'Todah. Vla Todah you didn't make, it grew. So maybe that's not mechayiv you with a new set of lechem. El avla Todah Nedava. So bein lefnei kapara, bein la'ach kapara, ein tunin lechem. That shouldn't either require lechem because moisar the toidahu. It's not marba b'toidah, it's moisar b'toidah, and that's what I read the Ksavyad of Rashi a little bit prematurely. So what does Rashi say? Moisar b'toidah, the yisera shagadol ala toidah, v'loy toidah v'lav toidah atzma. So therefore, they for sure would not need lechem because this is like an outgrowth of the carbon toida, but it's not a toida itself, so it shouldn't need. So weiter, where was Rabbi Yochanan referring to? Ella, let's go to Vlad toidas choiva. So if it's a Vlad toidas choiva, lefnei kapar ton lechem, and the Ksavya Rashi explains, you know why it's ton lechem? Because it could still be, if you were not yet makriv, the mother, it could still be used as the toida. But la'acha kapara, once you were already makriv the mother, and you already brought the carbon toida, ein to'on lechem. Let's see the Ksavyad Rashi inside. It's a longer one, but it's simple. Ela vlad toidas choiva ka'amar lefnei kapara to'on lechem. Why does it need lechem if you didn't bring the mother yet? Which way till this focuses? I can see it. The Kosover Adam is chaper b'shvach sheshviach hektish la'achash hoktish. The question here is, I was maktish a mother, and now the mother gave birth. So we say that the item that it donated to hektish became mushubach, it became better, it put off an offspring. The question is, am I allowed to use that to discharge my chiyuv toida? So Rabbi Yochanan holds, which is what we want to say here, that you could be mischaper with that. Hilchach kivan the ilu avda toida nofi yidei nidvasay bevlad toida or bevlad. Since if the original toida went missing, you'd be able to use the vlad to be mekayim your chayv. Toida karinim be, it gets a designation of a toida, and therefore utuuna lechem imikriva tchila. Why? The hanile the bahai yotzo yidei nidroi. Avol vlad toidas nedava, but if it's only a toidas nedava, then the loy alei ramya I avda. Even if the mother goes missing, there's no chiyuv upon the noider or the noidev. Therefore, lekala meimar avlad b'makim toidahu. You cannot say that the vlad is b'makim toidahu uvoy miskaper and he will be miskaper with it because he has no obligation to be miskaper. Da'ima im chayemes v'nadin tzarich lakriva v'mavda b'loy vlad nam you have a mifteri. So Mamela, it doesn't play any role as a toida. But if it's a vlad toida's chayva, then it plays a role as a toida, and therefore lefnei kapara you would need to provide lechem for it. Gewaltig.
When was this? When was this vlad born?
After you were makdish the animal.
Oh, but
there's actually a shayla in the Rishonim. I think the Rishah speaks out. It's actually only if it was conceived after you were makdish the animal, because then it's not shvach. Then you actually donated both. If both, it was conceived. Zog to Gemara kamash. So my kamash belon. What's the great chiddush of this halacha that by a vlad toidas choiva you would bring lechem if you had not yet been ischaper. That's the whole chiddush. The whole chiddush is that the vlad would be b'makom the mother. The same way Rabbi Amram struggled to understand Rabbi Yochanan's halacha, and he emphasized that it's speaking about a vlad toidas chayva. Abaye had the same conclusion. Zok the Gemara. Itmar nami Omer B'Tzach Yosef. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Chilufei toida nedava. Chilufei toidas nedava. Bein lefnei kapara. Bein la'acha kapara. Tu'una lechem. Why? Because it's marba b'toidasu. You're being marba b'toidas. You didn't have a chiyuv to give more. You decided to make another toida. So that's a regular toida, like the Gemara said earlier. V'la toidas nedava. Bein lefnei kapara. Bein la'acha kapara. Ain't toin lechem, because that's Moshe the Todah. That's like an outgrowth of the Todah. It doesn't create another chiyuv to bring lechem. V'la Todah schayva lefnei kapara to unin lechem la'ach kapara into lechem, like we just explained Rabbi Yochanan's halacha. Amar Shmuel, a new halacha. Kol shebechatos meisa. So we know there's the 5 chatois hameisais is what we would call extra redundant chatois, and they are merumaz. We remember them with the word visimna. Visimna, who was the pelegish of I think Esav. So visimna stands for 5 things. Vav stands for vlad chatos. Tov stands for tumuras chatos. Mem stands for mesu baileha. So there's no one who needs this chatos anymore. Nun stands for nischapru baileha. The Bailam got a kapara through a different carbon, maybe it went lost, and then you use another carbon for it. And the ayin stands for avar shnosa. It's once it's over a year old, it can no longer be used as a carbon chatas. What's done with them? They're left to die. So kol shebechatas meisa, any one of these chatois that you would leave to die, what if that same thing happened to a toida? The toida ain't to una lechem. If you mark of these animals, it wouldn't need lechem. So you had a vlad of a toida, or a vlad toida, tamuras toida, they don't need lechem. But kol shebechatos roya. But if you could find me a case whereby the carbon chatos, it would be roya, it wouldn't be left to die. Rather, they would let it graze, get a mum, and you hide it, and the Gemara is going to struggle to know what that case is. Then betoida to una lechem, a toida b'chahagavna would require lechem. Mosav Bamram. Ma'u oimer hatoida yakrib minay lemafresh toidasai. How do we know that if someone was mafresh is toida? V'yavda and he got lost. V'imfish acheres tachtel. They're both standing here side by side. Nayin she'ezu men sheyutza yakrib our very brisa. V'lach ma'ima Talmud loimer hatoida yakrib yochel teishniya tuna lechem Talmud loimer yakrivenu echad v'loi shnayim. So here, what was Shmuel's halacha? If it was chatas roya, it would be tuna lechem. This case, zokt Rav Amram by chatas, it would be roya as well. The ilu gabe chatas kagavne roya. What are we going to tell you? It's this chaper by leh? No. The Tanan hifish chatas ve'avda ve'hifish acheres tachtel ve'nimtzis harishoyna v'arishtein aimdois miskaper ba'achas men u'shniya tamus divrei Rabbi. L'chachamim oimrim ein chatas meisa elo shenimtzas la'achar sheniskaper bailam hakoydim sheniskaper bailam roya. So we know that nischaper by leo, the redundant animal gets killed. But that's only if you had a chatos, it went missing. You bought another korban chatos, and you were makrib the korban chatos, and you were niskaper. Now the original gets found. That's, everybody agrees, is a chatos hamesos. But what if you lost your korban chatos and then you bought another one? But before you had a chance to be makrib that one, the original one was found. So now you have them both standing here, and you're deciding which one you're going to use. Zokter Rabbanon, the Chacham say in this case, it's not a case of chatos hamesos. In this particular case, Zogin the Chachamim, that the other one is Roya Achi Yistoyev. So if that's the case, it's Roya Achi Yistoyev. So then the parallel case by a Todah should require lechem. Yet halacha is, it doesn't require lechem. So how are we going to understand Shmuel's halacha? Zok to Gemara very simply. Shmuel Rebbe Shvirlei. Shmuel will hold like Rebbe. The Amar Avuda B'Shas Afrasha Mesa. It doesn't matter if you find it before you're makriv. If you find the original before you're makriv, either one. No matter what, if you bought another one, automatically it's going to die. So Ibazoi, it's not shver anymore, because since it's going to die, by a Todah b'chagavna, Shmuel's halacha stands that it would not need lechem. So Frek Gemara Ela Royal Rebbe Hechem Mishachasla. Shmuel, it's obvious from what he's saying that there are certain chatoyis are mesos, but he also holds there must be certain chatoyis that are roya. Because if not, what did he say? He said, Kol shebechatas roya, it would need lechem. So what is the example of chatas roya according to Shmuel? El roya Rebbe Hechem Mishachasla. If Shmuel holds like Rebbe, so how does Shmuel understand in Rebbe a case where you would have chatas roya? So Tomar Boishia, Hivr shtei chatois lachrayis. What if you're mavrish two chatois l'chatchila, and you said I'm being mavrish A and I'm being mavrish B with it, just in case A goes missing, I have B there. So this is like an engineer; he always has a plan B, right? So the halacha is miskaper be'ezem enshiyir, so you can select whichever animal you want to be your chatos v'ashniyah tira. For Gemara, if that's an example, what about Todah b'chagavna? For Gabi Todah b'chagavna ain't tuna lechem. It wouldn't need lechem. Ella, we're forced to say Shmuel Kerab Shimon Svirle the Yomer Chomesh Chatois Mesois Chomesh Chatois Mesois. Period. And there are none that are royas. So therefore, really, there's no case of. There's no case of a Todah that needs lechem. They're all mesas. Zok to Gemara, Varoya l'Rab Shimon, less like Klal. But that means, according to Rab Shimon, there will never be a case where you have a chatos that's roya, and therefore the second half of Shmuel's halacha that kol shebechatos roya by a Todah needs lechem. Where will that be relevant? Where will that be relevant? So that is the Gemara Shaila. Because from Shmuel, it's pretty mashma, in fact, that it's pretty mashma, in fact, from Shmuel, that there must be an example of a Todah that would need a lechem that would be parallel to a chadas that's roya. So tomorrow, Einachanami, Shmuel nami choda kamar. You have to cut short Shmuel's halacha. All he said was, Kol shebechatas mesa b'toida ein tuna lechem. But he never said the other half, that Kol shebechatas roya b'toida tuna lechem. My kamash mulam, what is the chiddush of Shmuel in this halacha? So tomorrow, Lafukim and Rabbi Yochanan, he argued with Rabbi Yochanan, the Omar Adam Ischaper b'shvach hektish, kamash malon, the loy, he holds that a person is not mischaber, and therefore, by a vlad tamura, what did Rabbi Yochanan say? By a vlad tamura schoiva, if it's the first one that you're bringing, it requires lechem. It's kodesh from the schaper, but he holds that no, a person is not mischaper b'shvach hektish, and therefore that wouldn't be a toida, and therefore it would not need lechem. Amar Abba, what if someone said zu toida v'zu lachma? That's how he designated his carbon. Let's just catch up a little bit in the Rashi. My kamash malon shmuel I kulu tanino le'il de tunas lechem v'avade lekele meimar dichesha over shnasa also lashminon the toidik share feel about such a shon. It can't be speaking about a case of over shnasa either because there is no such thing as over shnasa. So the Gemara says lafukim and Rabbi Yochanan the Amar la toida lefnei kapar ton lechem toida mischaper b'shvach hektish kamash malon shmuel that he disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan the loy the karma kosher v'chatas mesa v'toida ain't tuna lechem. Therefore, in a vlat chatas will always be mesa. So then the vlat toida would not need lechem. Okay, so now what we have is as follows. Someone said zu toida v'zu lachma. He designated the lechem for the toida. Over al lechem. What if the lechem went missing? No big deal. Maybe lechem acher. You could replace it with other lechem. But of the toida, what if the carbon were missing? Ain't maybe toida acheres. You don't just take another animal and match it up to this lechem. The lechem is going to be possible. My timer, because lechem leglal toida. Lechem is like toffel to the toida, and therefore you can bring another lechem. The toida is still there; it's the anchor. But in toida leglal lechem, and therefore if its anchor went missing, it loses its place. V'yomarava hivish mois litoidasa. What if someone set aside $100 for his carbon toida, but v'ni toisru, his toida only costed $75? So what do you do with the extra $25? Maybe bahen lechem. You can bring a lechem with them. But if you designated money, lelachme toida, v'ni toisru, and now there's more money than required, you have an extra $50, ain't maybe by toida, you're not allowed to buy money with money that was designated to the lechem of the toida, you can't buy a toida. My time, what could be the reason for this? If it's because of what Rav Kahana said. How do you know that not only is the animal referred to by the Torah as a carbon toida, but the lechem is also referred to as the carbon toida? Shenemar v'hikriv al zevach hatoida chalois. So toida chalois, we darshan that the chalois are also called the carbon toida. So if it's because of that, the hikar of al zevach hatoida chalois matzais, well then ihacha ibchanami. So then why wouldn't it be the same way that if you want extra money from the lechem, it should be able to go to the toida, because the lechem is also called toida. The teretz is because lechem ikri toida. The lechem is referred to by the Torah as the carbon toida itself, but toida lo ikri lechem. But never is the toida referred to as lechem, and therefore excess money from the toida could be used for the lechem because the lechem is also toida. But excess money from the lechem can't be used for the toida because the toida is not called lechem. V'yamarova hivrish toidasai. What if you were mafish your carbon toida? The avda and they got lost. The chazav hivrish acheres tachtel, and then you were mafish a second one. The avda and they got lost. We're talking about a real shlemazel here. The chazar the hivrish acheres tachtel. I'm sure Eli Svanti will have a funny video on this one. The chazar the hivrish acheres tachtel. Now you have three. The nimtzu harishonos varishloshtan oimdos, and now you have all three standing right here. Now you're going to pick which one of the three you're going to use for your carbon toida. Nischaber b'rishona, if you're mechaber with the first one, shnia ain't tuna lechem, because we say that's like the toffel to the first one, and like we said earlier, that the one that you didn't select, that's toffel to the first, that you don't bring lechem with it. But shlishis, which is totally disconnected from the first, to una lechem. That would be considered like its own carbon. It wouldn't be associated with the original toida because it's twice removed from the original toida. You'd have to bring its own lechem. What about the chaber b'shlishis? Then shnia ain't to lechem, but rishona to lechem, because now the rishona is totally disengaged from the one that was selected as a carbon toida. B'imtzais shtein into this lechem. So if the guy wants to save himself the lechem, when he has the three standing there, he should be makar of the center one so that he won't have to buy another set of lechem. Abaya Amar Afilu Neskaper Ba'achas Mahen Shteyan Aintu Neslechem, because Kulu Chalifin Da Adodi Ninu. The fact of the matter is they're all based on one, whether directly connected or not is irrelevant. You wouldn't need lechem for any one of these. Amar Abzeir V'chein Le'yin Chatois. it would be a similar halacha legabe the carbon chatos. Here for shchatasoi v'avda, here for shacheres tachta v'avda, here for shacheres tachta. And now v'nim to our rishonis. Now you have all three very shlosh and aimdais. Now you have three chatois standing side by side. So you pick which one you want. And this gaber b'rishoina shniatamus shlishis tira. This gaber b'shlishis shniatamus v'rishoina tira. This gaber b'emtsois stay and yemusu. Abaya Amar, Afil in the Skaper Ba'achas man, Shtem Yamusu, the same Svara, Kulu Chalipin Ta'adaduniu. Frank Gemara, my V'chein. The Gemara says, V'chein by Chatos. What's the extra V'chein? Zok the Gemara, Ma'u de Tema, I might have said that maybe don't equate Chatos with Todah. Hasamu de Ikalamemar, Marbe B'Toidasu. By Todah, you could say that I'm being Marbe B'Toidas in every Todah that I give on my own, I voluntarily give, should have its own chiyuv for lechem. You can't be marbe b'chatois because you can't just bring a chatos when you're in a mood. You only bring a chatos when it's triggered by an avera. Ema loy, maybe it wouldn't have this halacha that it's disconnected. Kamash malon. Let's see what the Ksaviyat Rashi says about this. I think there's an interesting point to be noted over here. The lekal memar b'chatoisu the chatos lav bar neder unedavahu. You can't just bring it on your own, and therefore ve'ema the chulon yamusu. Let me see if the top one says differently. Avochados to lech lemir mar b'chatoisu shein darkon shel b'nei adam laharbes b'chatois. Right, so that's the difference. Do you say it's only totally if you could bring it voluntarily, like the Ksaviyat Rashi, or do you the top Rashi says shein darkon shel b'nei adam laharbes b'chatois because people don't do so many averos. It's not so common. Okay, kavaltik. Zok to Gemara weiter. Tani Rab Chia. I'm up to Tani Rab Chia, right? Todah shenis arva b'tmurasa. You have a Todah, you have a Temuras Todah, and they got mixed together. Umeisa achas mehen. And one of the two died. Chaverta ein loy takana. There's nothing you could do with the second one. Why not? Hey chinav, let's figure this out. Nakriv lechem bahada. If you're going to be makriv lechem with the remaining surviving animal, Dilma Tamurahi. Maybe it's the Tamura, and the Tamura doesn't require lechem. Loy nakriv lechem bada. And if you're not going to be makriv lechem bada, Dilma Toidahi. Maybe it's a Todah, and your Todah needs lechem. So therefore, there's no way around this. Fekdor hechadami. Ida amar alai. Loy sagi delay ma'isi loy behema achvina. So if he said originally Harei alai Todah, then he made a Tamuras Todah. Then one of the two died. So let him bring a third brand new animal. Why can't he bring a third brand new animal? And he'll say, so it's not enough if he doesn't bring. So he has to bring another animal. V'lechem and lechem. V'leiman, he should say as follows. Ihach de kaima, if the one that survived is the Tamurahi, well then my new third animal, ha toida v'alachma, I'm donating a brand new carbon toida. Iach the kaima toidahi, but if the one that survived over here is the original toida and it requires lechem, halachma, this lechem, Tismamish the Lublina strikes again, halachma anya. This is the lechem that's going to be for the toida. For and this third animal that I brought, tahava achrayis, should just be achrayis, a guarantee, which means it wouldn't need lechem. So what's the big deal? Why did Shmuel say that there is no eitzah? So what did Reb Chia say? That there's no eitzah for it? We have a very simple eitzah. Zok Gemara lo tricha the Amar harei zu. If it was a case of harei zu, there is no din of achrayis, so he can't say this is achrayis. Now we have a whole bunch of kashas on this, and these simonim are referring to the different kashas that are going to be asked, either to the armim that asked the kashas or to the kashas themselves. Amru lamedim, the learners, the learners, the Talmidim of Rebbe, Tosed Lefnei Rebbe. I have a simple solution. V'laisi lechem, bring bread. V'lema, iach dekaima toidahi. If this animal is the real toida, halachma. And Eloi, and if it's not the toida, it's the Tamur Leipel Luchulin, then the bread should go Luchulin. Amalu, I don't understand. If in fact this is chulin, then it has no business coming into the azar. Okay, so let's try another one. V'leisi behema v'lachem, bring behema and lachem. V'lema ihach dekaima temurahi ha'toida v'lachma, and ihach dekaima toidahi, then halachma, and the other animal will have a shlomim. Simple. You can't taste a chrayis because it's a rezu, but say it's a shlomim. So that's why you couldn't do that either. Because you're going to be makiv the shlomim. You don't know whether it's a shlomim or a toida. So even though a shlomim you can eat for 2 days, you're going to have to limit the achila of this carbon to 1 day, because it might be the toida. Amalum yishum to come a ma'it ba'achila the shlomim, and that's not allowed. Amar Levi leRabbi. How about a different shot? Maybe v'leisa be'ema v'lachem v'leima iach the kaima temurai then ha'toida v'lachma. V'hai the kaima toida hi halachma v'ha tahava moiser the toida. This will be, we'll call it the extra toida. Amar Lei, so he answered back, this guy seems to be out of his mind. Moisher toida happens by itself. You're not going to be mekadesh. But it became redundant for reasons out of your control. Me, b'chima frishin, tchila l'moisheris, that's not going to work. So at the end, we've been mekayim the halacha Reb Chia, that in fact, if you have a scenario like this, and it's not a chayva, it's a voluntary taida, there is no solution. There's no solution if you made a tamur for it. The Gemara here is going to ask a whole bunch of more kashas with more solutions, but we were zeicha to finish stuff pay. Today's our payday, and Mitzhem tomorrow, an hour before mincha. So I don't know what time mincha is. Yeah. So whatever, it's an hour before mincha. Okay,
What is Yom Tov?
Have a chag kosher v'sameach, and Bez Hashem Yisparach. We'll learn Bez Hashem Motzei Shabbos. We'll have a marathon.
What time?
I think 9:45.
9:45. Okay.
For me, that's rushing. For you, that's plenty of time.
That's right. Xavier Rashi.
All right, shkoyach.